So I'm back on YouTube now. I don't know if I'll be back on YouTube for a while. Probably not. I'll definitely come back every now and then, but I'm a bit busy at the moment. So I did recently upload a video of my short story, The Hooded Bandit. I am doing a re-upload of it because the other video that I did was pretty crap and it was blurry, and that really pissed me off. Plus, I couldn't really do like a different version of it, so you guys could like see what's going on. And plus, my phone was flat at that time, so that really pissed me off. I couldn't record at all because it was telling me, oh, low battery. So I will just read it instead, like this. And I just want to quickly explain how my short stories go. So I've been a short story since January 2022. So it's been a year now since I've been a short story, and every time short story writer, since I've been a short story writer, and every time I think about it, I'm like, wow, that's incredible. But I am also always very happy about that, and I've always wanted to be a short story writer, and by January of last year, I became one, and I'm always grateful about that. I just do short stories as a hobby. I don't do it for money. Plus, I can't really understand money because of my intellectual disability, but my intellectual disability is moderate. And no, I don't have high functioning, in case you're wondering. That's not how I'm able to do short stories or anything. It's just natural to me, really. And I do live with my dad on weekends, and I mainly just live with my mum and all that, but that's all I'm going to say, because most of the other stuff is private. But, yeah, and I don't have a job at the moment, and probably will never have one. Because I just probably can't. But, anyway, so that's all I have to say about that. So I hope some of you guys understand. I do have some family members, I'm not going to say much about them, but all I say is that some of my family members, apart from my mum who does understand, with my dad not so much, they don't really understand my disability at all, and they get very weird whenever I talk about it to them, and they say, oh, well, since your mum says that you can't do this, can't do that, it's bullcrap. And I just tell them in the nicest way possible that it's not bullcrap because it's true. I can't do things most people can. I can definitely do some things. There are some things that I'm very good at, that I'm proud of, and other things that I'm crap at and probably will never be good at. But anyhow, but my mum says though that the things that I don't actually do is something that I need to try and do. But I don't really believe that, because I don't think I can do that stuff that she claims that I can actually try and do. Even though she used to be the sort of person which is like, yeah, I kind of agree with like the drummers, because you can't really do this or that at all, and probably will never be able to. But I think the reason why she's changed that, because she's more like open about it, I guess, but I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to explain how my short stories go. So all my short stories have always different mixture of chapters, so either 9 chapters, 7 chapters, 5, 6, or 4 or something like that. I've even written ones that have 10 or 12 chapters, or even 11. It's always very different. And I know you're probably thinking, why can't you just let the story flow? Well, that's because I can do whatever the hell I want. I'm the writer. You can't change who I am. But I do want to say that the way my short stories are also done is that they're meant to be described as movies, because I give them genre type names and all that, and even describe, like, I even like use words to describe what the story will be like with the tone. And I even have my own original characters, and I give them dialogue, character relationships and all that. And I sometimes have villains in some of my stories, and I'll give like the hero and villains like relationships or whatever. And sometimes I write stories about characters that aren't mine. And in case you're wondering, no, they're never about characters from real life. They're just actually fictional. Most of the characters that I write about are fictional. They're all fictional. Even my own characters. So obviously that means they're fictional. If you don't, if you don't know, if like I say, oh, I write short stories about my own original characters, if you don't know that that means that they're fictional, well then that's a bit silly. That's all I have to say. I'm not being rude, I'm just being honest. But, yeah, so I've been writing short stories for a while, and I'm always very motivated. and I always know how my short stories start and end before I start them, and I always know what to say, believe it or not, because it's actually true. And yeah, and I always give characters like really cool names and all that, like my own characters, obviously. And yeah, and some of my short stories are usually like action thrillers, whereas other stories are just stories. So this one I'm going to read is the same one that I uploaded a video for yesterday, and it's just a story really, so it has no action, called The Hooded Bandit. And you meant, much like with most of my short stories, you're meant to visualize it as a movie. So I'm really hoping to be able to do that, so here we go. The Hooded Bandit plot summary. During November 11th, 2029, a young American warrior that lives in the north named Tobias Maximo, aka the Hooded Bandit, must survive in the snowy mountains along with a child he rescued and a woman with powers in order to escape from the destroyer of planets. Science fiction, fantasy, adventure, drama. Chapter 1. Desperate times call for desperate measures. That quote is written by a figure known as Hippocrates, who is an ancient Greek. I can't really pronounce this word, so I'll have to spell it to you guys. Physician. And one man who was the main character of this story, named Tobias Maximo, was a big fan of him for most of his life. Tobias also travelled many seas and went to many islands and countries. The year of this story is 2023, and date is November 11th. It's nightfall, and Tobias is sailing on his ship by himself in the largest ocean that is endless. Tobias wears a black fur-like hoodie, and he has... I also should have explained to you guys that sometimes when I read to someone or just am reading my stories, that I'm, like, as I'm writing it, I edit it a little bit. I only do some editing because I'm not very good at it. But my mum's very good at it. She does a bit of editing, plus she's a teacher. Not my teacher. I don't go to school anymore. I graduated in 2020. I'm 19. And I'm kind of glad I don't really go to school. I don't hate school. I never hated school. I only liked it because I got to hang out with my friends. I didn't mind learning. I wasn't like those like stereotypical people that hate learning in school. I always think it's really sad when they don't like to learn. I mean, I can understand why. Sometimes school was probably not very good, but everybody needs school. And I always think it's stupid when people are like, oh, you know, life's gonna kick your ass anyway when you have school, so there's no point in going. Yes, there is. There is point in going, because otherwise you won't be able to get a job, because a school could help you get a job if you go out into the world. That's the whole point of why you get a school. Anyway, so yeah, that always just pisses me off, but, hang on, let me go back. Tobias wears a black fur-like hoodie, and he has tattoos on his wrists and hands, and he is an incredibly buff man, and he is an American. And he has an eye patch, and even has long white hair tied up into a ponytail, and he carries a water bottle with him and a phone. Tobias also has a large white soft beard. Hang on a minute, guys. Something's on my laptop. And even has long white hair tied up into a ponytail, and he carries a water bottle with him and a phone. Tobias also has a large white soft beard and moustache too, and he had a half-burnt face. Tobias holds onto the railing of his ship, and his ship tilts a little because of the rocky water, and he very quickly rushes to the wheel that controls the ship. He steers it, and he has no choice but to teleport himself somewhere else because he was heading towards a massive rock, and he's now on a beach near an island, and he sees his ship smashing into the rock. Tobias sighed, and he says, well, better luck next time, fool. After that, Tobias took out a golden watch from his backpack he had on at the time after he took it from the ship by using his powers, and he tapped on the golden watch, and it shined a light through the sandy area in front of him, and he saw the woods. Tobias kept walking towards the woods and came across a pile of dog bones stacked up neatly. Tobias was disturbed by this, plus the dog bones had blood on them for some reason, which was very strange to him. Tobias knelt down towards the pile of dog bones, and he took out a syringe and injected it into one of the dog bones, and he had some of its blood inside, and he put his syringe back in his backpack, and he walked around the pile of dog bones and saw files on some rotting dead woman. It almost made him vomit, and he looked away and covered his mouth. Tobias wondered why the woman was there, and he turned around and the woman vanished somehow. Tobias thought this was absolutely bizarre and unheard of, and he wanted to know what was happening. He ignored what happened, and he walked further into the woods and turned on his flashlight. After he turned off his golden watch, and his golden watch started ticking, and he thought that was absolutely strange, so it shouldn't happen. Then he heard a whistle from a woman that was very close by. He looked around and saw no one. Tobias saw some bushes, and he figured maybe the woman that whistled him was in one of them bushes, and he took out a knife just in case the woman was a threat. And he walked towards the bush where he saw a woman's red-painted fingernails stick out. He was shocked when the woman came out charging at him, or at least he thought she was, and she ran past him screaming, trying to get away from him. And Tobias put his knife in his pocket and said, "Hey, wait up, it's okay, I ain't no hostile lady." Just then the woman stopped running away and she turned around and she spoke. "Who are you meant to be?" Tobias smiled. "I am Tobias Maximo, the hooded bandit." The woman, who had long brown hair hanging down and wore a dark grey cardigan, shook hands with Tobias. "Hello, Tobias, my name is Miranda Jones. I have been stranded on this island for 5 years. Tobias was shocked by Miranda's reply, and he understandably felt bad for her and spoke up. "I'm sorry you had to go through that. Did you have any food?" Miranda placed her hands onto her hips. "Yeah, I had food. I live in a cottage that I made for myself." Tobias raised an eyebrow. How did you do that?" Miranda smirked. "I have powers, but I cannot use my powers to escape." Tobias looked to his left, then to his right, and whispered to Miranda, "I can help you with that, because I was born with teleportation powers, buddy." Miranda was very intrigued by what Tobias just told her. Hang on, guys, there's a word mix-up, as usual. And she gestured him to follow her, and he did, and the two walked along a very long, narrow dirt path. "Where does this lead to?" Tobias asked. "My cottage, silly. So tell me about yourself," Miranda spoke. "I got this eye patch here, and it's pretty..." Oh, sorry, no. Sorry, guys, I read that wrong. I read ahead, I think. "I got this eye patch here in case you didn't notice, and I have it because my own father cut my eye out by using a knife, and I will not show my eye to you because it's pretty gnarly. Pretty gnarly looking, to say the least. But yeah, so my father was a nut job, and he hated me all my life, whereas my mother was a nice lady. But she died from cancer, and it was the worst day of my life to see her die that way. I promised her I would not leave her sight, and I stayed with her at her house the whole night, cuddling up with her, because I was so depressed that she died, and my mind couldn't grasp the fact that she was deceased." Miranda was stunned by what Tobias just told her. She figured she told the horrible things about his dead mother because he was busy grieving. "Sorry if I disturbed you in my story, pal," Tobias commented. "No, it's okay, Tobias. I had a tragic life myself." Tobias gazed at Miranda. "What happened?" Miranda folded her arms as she continued walking with Tobias. "I became an orphan at the age of 9 when my parents died in a fire accident when it was cursed by the planet destroyer known as Kai. You would know him. He's sadly very famous for the war crimes he committed." Tobias played with his beard. "I'm sorry for your loss, and yeah, I know Kai. He is a monster. He is not to be messed with." I have always been scared of him. He is just an alien that destroys planets in his spare time. It's impossible to beat him since he is immortal." Miranda sighs as she puts her hands into her pockets. "Maybe we can beat him." Tobias looked straight at Miranda and he said, "Are you joking?" Miranda shook her head nonchalantly. "Nope. We do not need to fight him to kill him, but we can kill him by using the cursed watch." Tobias scratched the back of his head. "What the heck is that?" Miranda glanced at Tobias. The cursed watch was something made by the ancient vampire known as Sabra, who became an immortal vampire in the year 1887 when another vampire bit him. Sabra lives somewhere in the north. We need to track his whereabouts. Tobias stopped walking and he turned to face Miranda, and he put his backpack onto a white log that was near him, and he took out a glass cup and he said, "This glass cup is magic, and we can track anything. Use this, but you have to charge it in order for it to work, which takes hours." Miranda gripped the glass cup. "How do you charge it?" Tobias cleared his throat, then pointed at the glass cup in front of Miranda. "You must use a control device with the hole in it to charge it. I have it here." Miranda saw Tobias holding out a handheld device, and it had a hole in it, and she said, "What do I do with it?" Tobias smirked as Miranda put the handheld device onto the glass cup, and it stuck there like glue, and it was glowing red. "That charges it," Tobias spoke. "You said it charges for hours, but how many hours exactly?" Miranda asked. "I'd say at 8 hours, Tobias replied. "Why that long?" Miranda wondered. "No idea, man, it just works that way." Meanwhile, in New York City, a man that was wearing a black suit and a white tie, named Timothy Harrison, who was aged 50, was rocking long blue hair, and he was a businessman, and he was walking towards a building he worked at, and he saw the large words on the front of the large glass building that said, "Money is coming your way." Hang on, guys. After Timothy saw the words on the building, he was distracted by a billboard near him, and it showed the news reporter named Mickey Johnson Tyranny. He was described as a news anchor. Timothy knew Mickey, and he was Timothy's old friend. Timothy kept walking to his building he worked at, and he opened the sliding door and walked past a group of men and women, and he came across a long wide table where a woman worked at, and she was typing on a keyboard near a computer, obviously. And she looked up at Timothy, who said, "Hello, I'm here to see my boss, Michael Brody." The woman nodded, and she held a phone from a phone holder, and she began calling Michael Brody, and Timothy waited. Then within 2 minutes, the woman said this to Timothy: "Michael Brody says you may see him." Okay guys, so that's the chapter I've written so far, because I wrote this chapter only yesterday. I haven't written the rest of it yet, but I hope you really like it so far.